America's national motto, as many of you know, is "In God We Trust." But lately, that trust seems to be at a deficit. More and more Americans today don't trust anyone or really anything.
National Journal editor-in-chief Ron Fournier explores this idea in a recent article titled "In Nothing We Trust." He's here at our table along with faith and religion contributor Father Edward Beck and Michael Dimock of the Pew Research Center. Good morning to all of you. And I want to start with some of these numbers from the Gallup poll. Trust in institutions from 2002 to 2011. Take a look at these numbers. Trust is down in banks 24%, in the presidency 23%, Supreme Court 13%, TV news 8%, churches up 3%. Ron, you went to Muncie, Indiana. What did you find?
I found out, just like the rest of the country, the people of Muncie feel like everything around them, everybody around them, is letting them down. Their banks, their small businesses, their big businesses, their government, their churches, their schools, their neighbors. And it's created this trust gap that is really pernicious. It could be a big problem for our country if we don't get our hands around it.
Why is it happening right now?
You know, it's kind of a cyclical thing. A big part of the problem is obviously the economy, but not just that we're losing jobs. It's that we're in this big period of social and economic transformation, like we were 100 years ago back in Muncie when we went from the agriculture to the industrial era. That kind of tumult is creating institutions that are no longer adapting and as relevant to people as they need to be, and they're not adapting fast enough, starting with government.
You also paint this picture in Muncie, and I see it across the country as well, that people who play by the rules are the ones who lose the game. And Father Beck, is that something you hear frequently?
What I hear more is that the mistrust is not in the institutions, but the leadership of the institutions. And so that people really see that structure is necessary. I mean, the government, political, the financial institutions, you need them to survive and for order. But we've been disappointed by the leadership, and that includes the church.
Is the answer right now get rid of the leadership across the board, or does it have to go deeper than that?
Well, I think from the public perspective, a lot of it's about leadership, and it's about a lack of trust, and it is about fairness. There's a perception that the pain is not being distributed evenly right now, that banks got away with doing damage to the economy and haven't paid the price, and that it's the regular people who are paying their taxes and doing what they need to do and not paying the price, and they're holding the elected officials accountable for that more than anything.
And it seems you see a lot of that, whether it's Occupy Wall Street, whether it's the Tea Party, no matter what, manifesting it. Ron, you mentioned 100 years ago. Are there other historical reference points we should look at here as well?
The best one is 100 years ago when we're going through this kind of transformation, and people were, their technology was making their lives easier but much more complicated like it is now. People were having the old ways of connecting were no longer relevant, and they were finding new ones as we are now, and people were being left behind as they are now.
How long does this period of tumult last for?
I mean, I don't know. If you look back at history, you have some hope that maybe we can, the leaders of these institutions, you're exactly right, can adapt to them. But if you look at a place like Muncie, if you look at the moral and the social fabric of America right now, if you talk to a lot of Americans, you start to wonder, is it possible that this is not just a blip, that we will have permanently lost faith in the leaders of our institutions?
Are there people in this country who are at the top of institutions that people would say, if those were put in jail, I would feel more strongly that this country is on the right track?
I think it really helps. There's a sense of justice when you see leadership needing to be accountable for mistakes that people just see as intolerable. And it's cyclical. Sometimes it's throw all the bums out. But don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I think people realize they need the structure. But yeah, I think people do need to pay for what they've done wrong. And sometimes, like with the financial institutions, the perception is they were rewarded, not punished.
Very quickly, you don't see this changing sooner rather than later?
No, and I don't think it's just about accountability. I think back to what Ron discovered, a lot of it's just about the uncertainty people face right now. And part of that is an economic downturn that's been long and deep and hurt a lot of people. Part of it is a more fundamental change in the way our economy works and the level of security people can expect from their jobs, expect in their lives. And that uncertainty breeds distrust in broad, abstract institutions. If I'm feeling uncomfortable, something must not be going right, and it's probably the government and the large institutions that aren't doing their jobs. And that's a natural instinct we all have, and not an unreasonable one.
10 seconds, Ron.
As a political and a White House reporter, one thing I concluded from this was that there is no way that these two parties are going to exist the way they are now. And one of them is likely going to go away. People are going to take control of their government and going to insist on change at the top.
Ron Fournier, Father Edward Beck, Michael Dimock, thanks so much. Really interesting discussion, and it seems like the uncertainty is here to stay.